The SoundGrid Studio system is a new way of thinking in regards to mixing and recording. It brings with it quality, economy, and flexibility. Regardless of whether you're working in a home studio, you've got a complex network of recording rooms, you're in broadcast, or recording a live show. Based on the SoundGrid infrastructure, the SoundGrid Studio system offers studios a wide range of solutions. Streamlined workflow, sharing of assets, and extremely low latency are some of its benefits. This brings in the beginning of a whole new world of productivity and freedom for your sound production. The SoundGrid Studio system is not designed to replace your DAW, it's designed to complement it, adding Ethernet connectivity, expansion options, and the power to add any system to SoundGrid IOs and DSP servers. Any SoundGrid Studio system, regardless of how large or small, simple or complex, consists of these four elements. The SoundGrid Studio application, the eMotion ST Mixer, Studio Rack, and the SoundGrid ACO Core Audio Driver. The Waves SoundGrid ACO Core Audio Driver enables you to connect your DAW to the SoundGrid Studio system. This is part of the SoundGrid install, so when selecting your playback engine preference, select Waves SoundGrid. Once selected, you can communicate with devices on the SoundGrid network. The SoundGrid Studio application is a bit like a control center. It configures and controls all of the devices and DAWs within your SoundGrid network. The IOs move sound in and out of the network and are accessed from Rack A here in the setup window of the application. eMotion ST is the mixer part of the SoundGrid Studio system. Combined with Studio Rack, it lets you run SoundGrid plugins for low latency monitoring, giving you complex monitor mixing options while recording with your DAW. eMotion ST is a high-quality mixer with 8 multi-purpose inputs, 64 additional Studio Rack input channels, 2 effects buses, 6 mix buses, and a main stereo mix. Since the mixer operates within the SoundGrid network, any available SoundGrid-compatible I/O device, whether hardware or driver-based, can provide it with inputs and outputs. The eMotion ST Mixer can run hundreds of Waves and third-party SoundGrid-compatible plugins, replacing, in this respect, an external mixer, traditionally used for creating monitor mixes for studios and headphones. Studio Rack is a software rack designed to run plugin chains, giving you the choice of directing your processing to either a SoundGrid DSP server or your computer's CPU. When processing your plugin chains on a SoundGrid DSP server, Studio Rack lets you monitor your tracks in low latency via the eMotion ST Mixer here, and is compatible with most popular hosts. Studio Rack has a dedicated component for Pro Tools TDM and HDX systems, giving you access to both Avid and Waves offload capabilities. If you save a preset in Studio Rack, it includes all the individual plugin presets, and this means you can easily load those presets into different DAWs and keep working in both local CPU and SG modes wherever you are. Here's just a few things that you can do with the SoundGrid Studio system. Offload the plugin processing in your sessions to a SoundGrid DSP server, be it the one built into the DigiGrid DLS or iOS, or an external one like the SoundGrid Extreme server. You can offload hundreds of plugins to the SoundGrid DSP server, which frees your computer CPU up for other processing needs, regardless of whether you're in playback or recording. With the SoundGrid Studio system, collaboration takes on a whole new meaning. You can stream your audio between DAWs, regardless of which DAW everyone is using. If the systems all have the SoundGrid system installed, you can have them all streaming into one central station at nearly zero latency. Use the SoundGrid Studio system to access your IOs from other DAWs in other rooms. It's as simple as directing an IO in Rack A in the SoundGrid Studio application you want to the room you need it in, and you have full access. You can even allocate the DSP from one room over to another using the same method from here under the Server tab. Regardless of whether you're working with Pro Tools HD, HDX, HD Native, or a native DAW, the SoundGrid Studio application sits in the background and makes sure that you always have access to the tools you need going forward. Furthermore, the SoundGrid protocol is now open to development by all manufacturers of audio hardware and plugins. Future's looking good.